Hello and welcome to Super Geeks' new Star Trek Discovery Reaction show, which is the Mycelial Network News, also known as MNN. My name is George. With me today, again, for the second time, is Star Trek author Dave Galanter. How you doing, Dave?
I'm well. Good to be with you.
All right. And Raul, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
And, I skipped over Carlos. Carlos Pedraza, how you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing great, and you can put me anywhere in the lineup that you want. I'm perfectly happy.
Oh
I try to use
We're not
chicken.
talking about that on air.
Hey, at least I'm wearing pants.
He doesn't mind. He doesn't mind being a bottom, is what he's saying. All right. Anyways,
George.
just kidding. Yeah,
George.
Filter.
Filter. And Sean, how you doing?
How do you think I'm doing?
Pantless and free.
Exactly.
And Sun, what's up?
Hello. Before we get
Also
started,
panelist.
I just want to say, I like being right.
Which were you right? You're right about many things, but which is this one?
Wait, let her reveal
The,
it. All right, go ahead. What?
the start of this episode is all about catching quote unquote Spock's shuttle.
Yep, and we'll talk about that in about 2 seconds here. So we're gonna break down scene by scene. And the first scene, just to recap, it opens with Burnham doing a narrative about losing Tilly and about Sean called this one where I didn't notice it before, but it confirmed that they were a married couple, Stamets and Culbright. But I didn't notice before that they never used that term, but they always said, I guess, partner. Is that right, Sean?
Partner.
They didn't actually...
Honestly, I don't even really remember them doing that. It just was made very clear that they were in a relationship. They just didn't.
They brushed their teeth together. What more do you need?
Well, that's it. I mean, we really didn't need that, but it was a nice touch.
Well, before I was married to my wife, we lived together and brushed our teeth.
That's right.
Dave, you lived in sin?
As an atheist, no.
Well played, sir. So yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, that's why. I mean, per mention,
it was a nice kick. Honestly, I will say this about that. It was a nice kick square in the nuts to that certain section of the fandom. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And everybody is thinking they lost Tilly because they don't know, whether she was vapor or disintegrated by that cocoon.
I have a question before you go on. I don't even remember them mentioning that they were married. When was that?
That's what Sean was saying when the episode was on the air.
When Burnham did her voiceover at the very beginning of the episode, she was talking about Stamets. She referred to him as a widower.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She was talking about words that describe each person, shipmates and so forth, about Tilly, and when she got
to widower, it was centered. The shot was centered on Stamets.
Right.
Correct.
And then, and this will segue to what, or not segue because we were just talking about go along with what dovetail. That's the word. Off of what Sun said, which is this becomes a search for Spock. Now Raul will back me up. That we were talking on Discord in the middle of the episode, and I said when they pull that shuttle in there, it's going to be Giorgio, and I thought no, it was Tyler. Actually, he was there too.
Tyler was.
We just didn't see.
No, Tyler was not there yet.
Oh, he was okay. Yeah, he didn't come
Tyler
on the
was
shuttle.
sent over later.
Okay, and so, but I was right about Giorgio being the one that was in there instead of Spock.
Right.
But it was an educated guess.
But they gave us clues on that.
Right, on the trailer.
They released those photos in advance.
Well,
and in fact, I think they also did in the trailer.
That, Carlos.
And if you look carefully,
that's
it
why
says medical shuttle on it.
Exactly. Well, that's all. That is actually why that was part of it. I remembered seeing things from the trailer. So I'm not going to say I'm like a genius or anything. But this is becoming, like Sun said, well, we already knew that. What we guessed last week, we were talking about on the regular show, how long before we were taking bets on what episode we're finally going to get Spock. I said episode 8. Dave, what do you think?
I think they're going to hold off as long as they possibly can to ratchet up the tension and ratchet up the mystery.
But not wait too long because you want to give them a few episodes or maybe just a couple.
How many episodes
we do
are in the
have
season?
a mystery to solve that he's kind of important to do. So
that's why I think eight is a modest.
I believe he will at least show up by the last episode of the season.
I think
they
totally
wrong.
have. So if there's how many episodes are there this season?
There's 14.
14.
So 7.
I'm
14
thinking
this
7,
year.
right? Smack dab in the middle.
Could be 7, 8, 9, 10, and then still have several episodes to go. Yeah.
No, I'm going with 6 or 7. So that's
But yeah,
either one.
my whole argument for this was they literally had to catch up to the shuttle before they could do the whole mycelial thing, because that's literally them stopping to do the mycelial thing.
And also, I thought it was interesting the way that they disabled the shuttle with making the torpedo explode. That's the first time they fired weapons on the season so far. Obviously, we'll talk about it at the end, but the next episode looks like a big firefight. And then the shuttle gets pulled on board, of course, and the reveal is that, lo and behold, she's back. Giorgio, we just saw a couple episodes ago. So they bring her on board. That was
in a tight leather suit,
which is pretty much the way they've been doing it since last season too. You got to catch up on those.
Yeah. I know.
You're gonna like it. Trust me. The Mirror Universe episodes, you're gonna love them. So then, Giorgio is brought with Pike. We find out Pike has not been approved about the fact that that's not the same Giorgio. That, he went to the academy with her. That was interesting. She's playing along, and and then she reveals she's Section 31, and we meet Lee. Well, we already knew Leland, but we didn't know that he knew Pike, and this was a new reveal. What did you guys think of that moment? We'll start with anyone.
Well, it's important when you have heavies on the show, or in a novel or in a story of any kind, that you have equals at some point. You can have bifurcated levels of control and leadership, but if you don't have equals, then you never really get to see the character in full.
Carlos, so what did you think of the contrast between Pike being the goody two-shoes Starfleet captain versus Leland, who has changed completely from the man he knew?
I thought that was a great contrast. I like that they have history, unspoken history, that and yet there is definite tension there. Cornwall at the end playing the teacher, getting the schoolboys to get along with one another. I thought was really great, and I think an extension of that. So yeah, I felt like it was a good way to personalize how tricky the relationship with Section 31 is for Starfleet, with each of these guys kind of personifying, their parts of the organization.
What about you, Dave? What do you think?
My sense is that they're setting up some sort of moral dilemma, which is, for either Pike or for Starfleet in general.
No, Star Trek, you're kidding.
That's exactly my point. It feels very Star Trek. The only difference is from the original series and even some of the later series is they do it over a season. It's a season arc as opposed to an episode arc. And so I feel we're being set up for yet another very Star Trek part of an overall Star Trek story.
Well, they're also doing a long setup for the Section 31 show too, which is using this that way. I think is brilliant. And Carlos, I think you before I ask somebody else, I think you nailed it when it comes to the role Section 31 plays. You mentioned it in a prior episode that you had a theory that Section 31 during this era was not as big of a mystery because something happens later where they go too far maybe. But during this time, right after the war with the Klingons, they are a necessary evil that Starfleet's working with. So they're more broad strokes as far as working directly with Starfleet, being aware of their existence of, Leland's in charge and they...
Can I answer that?
Well, all right, yeah, go ahead.
The Department of Defense has an intelligence agency, which actually is the largest intelligence agency for the United States. Now, they are overt. They are overtly doing what they're doing. Now, that could be compared to what Section 31 is right now. What they become later is more CIA and Mossad, where they are covert.
I got to disagree. I think they're more Homeland Security, where they're giving above constitutional kind of powers. So that's different from the CIA.
But no, I think the Homeland Security, it's a huge, huge bureaucracy, and I think Section 31 is the anti-bureaucracy.
That's
right. I agree. They have a very focused mission, to say the least.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of this is akin to, like we were talking about this. They seem to be a lot more working hand in hand, overtly and publicly with Starfleet. I mean, this is more like they're kind of like the way the CIA itself is, and then you've got much smaller divisions in the CIA that would be what Section 31 is 100 years from that. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
Cornwall
what I'm
actually
looking at.
mentioned the Starfleet Charter, not the Federation Charter. So is there?
Right, it's the Starfleet Charter. It's not the Federation
Right.
Charter.
Okay.
That's true because they existed in
Article
Enterprise.
14, Section 31.
Yeah,
Right.
They existed during the Enterprise time, and that was pre-Starfleet, and it's from that Constitution.
Well, pre-Federation, not
Right.
pre-Starfleet.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
because there wasn't a Federation yet in Enterprise.
Right, it's actually mentioned in Deep Space Nine to begin with, originally.
Right, and
My feeling is that this whole season, as they work to set up the Section 31 spinoff, is going to be the story of how Section 31 ends up being officially kicked out of Starfleet, and they reconstitute behind the scenes, and then that's the Section 31 that we know from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
and that'll be a great story to tell for sure.
Yeah.
It's very, again, it'll be the second time I've done this, but this is very much. I'm going to make an Assassin's Creed reference. This is very much Knights of
I actually agree with you on
Templar.
that. I think it's a political intrigue. You got your covert op groups that are given a little more sanction because they need some things need to get done that need to be behind the scenes. Hopefully, the president of the Federation is not having a problem with maybe it's emails that people find out about her and Section 31 talking to each other that we find. Oh, did I go there? I'm sorry. Something happens. Maybe it happens on Cestus 3. What do you guys think of that callback, by the way, to the Easter egg to Cestus 3 and the alligator wrestling?
It was fine. I like the reference to alligators.
The alligator wrestling, yeah.
And and the fact that Leland was the one who was involved with that, I thought was probably made sense. But yeah, it was a nice little Easter egg. I don't think we're going to see anything major come out of that. But
all of that. What?
Leland said Pike said to Leland, I haven't seen you in a while. Last time I heard you were on Cestus 3 doing alligator wrestling. And that was not intended to be them knowing the Gorn. It was just a joke.
That's an effort. That's a reference. A little more context. It's a reference to the original series episode Arena with the when the Kirk fights the Gorn.
I just never made that connection.
Oh yeah, Cestus 3.
I just thought, okay, is this a reference to Pike losing his mind in the pilot?
No, it's a wink. It's a wink to Arena, but I seriously doubt that it actually is suggesting that they knew about the Gorn.
No, they didn't.
That's what I said too.
Yeah,
I looked that up, and they may not have seen the Gorn, but that colony was disputed.
They might be aware of them, but never actually met them.
To the episode, so they knew about the Gorn because that planet was in dispute between them.
I don't recall that. I thought they didn't even know about that it was claimed in Arena.
Hold on. Sometimes they retcon things without meaning to, like, for example, seeing the Romulans on screen until whatever. I think that one of the things I thought about was back last year, even though it was more of a Easter egg, again, like I think this is, Lorca did have a skeleton of a Gorn. Of course, they could have found those remains on Cestus 3, not knowing who this race was.
How do we know it was a Gorn? Did they come out right and say it? I don't.
You could tell it was a Gorn. There was the exact shaped skeleton of the Gorn.
Looked very Gorny.
But I mean, look. Honestly, if you took, would you know the difference between if they had a skeleton of a Romulan, Vulcan, and a human? Would you know the difference?
I mean, it could have been a Linus in the Mirror Universe that he had in Bones, but
I think the issue is really that we know that the Mirror Universe. Remember, this is the Mirror Lorca.
Oh yeah, they have met the Gorn.
In the Mirror Universe, they've taken over the entire galaxy, basically. So
there was also a Gorn on.
So they would know about the Gorn.
And there was a Gorn in the Mirror Darkly episode too. He fought Archer.
Right, in the Mirror Universe, right.
Right, well, that's what I mean. Because Lorca came from there, maybe he knew about them. But anyways,
also, you would know that a Vulcan skull has only 27 distinct bones, whereas a human one has 29. So you could tell that way. I still think the Romulan would be the same.
But until they start doing the show in like 16K, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Or it's just, they would have to get someone like Larry to come back and, hey, did you guys get 16 on those ribs? What's going on? Yeah, I know what you mean. So that was an interesting callback. I like that conversation. I like Leland and Pike know each other because it sets up the whole it's like spy versus spy, the black spy, the white spy, and kind of like that.
Racist.
Also, yeah, and so in the moral situation, the morality thing. And then after that scene, Stamets offers a posit that Tilly was sent through a biotransporter and may not have been vaporized because he didn't see signs of her being disintegrated because there's no DNA left. And he has a theory that there was a biotransporter done organically to the mycelial network and that may brought her there, and that it's possible they could re-enter it if they do an incomplete jump. And Tilly wakes up in the network meanwhile talking to May, who says, "We need help against a monster." And I mean, Sean, what did you think?
Am I the only person who immediately thought of, they somehow locked the tardigrade in the mycelial network and now it's eating all the spores?
I didn't.
I think that's just you.
That did not occur to me. But hey, had you mentioned it then, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. But no, okay. My take on that. Here's the thing. Stamets spent way too much time explaining the whole DNA thing. It's just real simple. Look, there ain't no DNA in here. So she wasn't killed in this thing. Is really all he had to say. So
that would have been a comment for Tig to say.
Well, yeah, but where was she when we needed her? Oh my God. So, but anyway, yeah.
Engineers, that's what they do.
They really need to make her a regular. That's all I'm saying.
Honest to God, right? So, all right. So the whole thing, we get the exposition of the whole thing, what they're going to do. I love Pike's comment. So you want to use a ship as a doorstop. Got it. Okay. Great line. But,
I love, by the way, that they have him doing ranch dialogue because he made it very clear that he had a ranch in the cage.
That's right.
He did. It's a lot of fun. And
he referred to the Mojave, which a couple episodes back, which I thought was...
The cold stream in the Mojave Desert, yeah.
Well, no. If you remember the cage, that was all green farmland, and so that's.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. So maybe in the future they have done a little terraforming in there.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Or it's a different. It's Mojave on a colony on a different planet. Who knows? But anyway,
the ice.
Well, we know he grew up on Earth, though,
right?
So.
True. Okay. So, all right. So what I liked about this scene was. Other than Stamets over-explaining the whole DNA thing, but it was like technobabble, and this is what.
They do that for the dummies out there that watch the show.
I don't mind the technobabble.
They were doing it to set up Culver's return,
right? Which is fine. They didn't give you nonstop TNG style technobabble. It got you to the point, and then it's like Pike. For the audience says, okay, I'm surprised he didn't break the fourth wall when he said it. Okay, we're using the ship as a doorstop. Boom, there you go. That's what we're doing. So it played it out well without having to dive too deep in the technobabble, which has always been a problem.
But
Stamets modern Trek.
Stamets is kind of a representative of that technobabble love in Star Trek.
But that's why he was saying to counter it, Pike's comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with Sean. I think technobabble is one of the worst things that came out of the TNG era.
I completely agree. You don't need to because what you're doing is you're servicing one audience and alienating another.
You're not even servicing that one audience. You're just working too hard.
Yeah, you're
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Because look, here's the thing. We know it's the future, okay?
Future.
You don't have to keep
spoon feeding that information.
Right, yeah. Exactly. The exposition on that is just not necessary.
I think it's okay. Here's the limit on it that I'm okay with them doing. If you're doing it like with the use of a metaphor or something, so that it's clear what the idea is that's going on here. But when they cross the line and just start basically just over-explaining it with the deedly boobs and the bobbity bops, that's just too far.
I like the way Tilly did it in the episode with the event that was going to destroy that planet, where she runs into the bridge and she says, "The larger the mass, the greater the gravitational pull," and then she waves her hands and goes, "You guys know this." That was the perfect way to do it. You start explaining it like as if you're in a room full of people that don't know, but then she suddenly realized, "Oh, I'm being." You guys know this. Well, no,
not every character can be overly talkative like that
Right,
and explain
right.
it away like
I'll
that.
give you an example of where I laugh about this still. The episode of TNG with
Patronizing, that's what I meant.
when Scotty comes back, okay, and you can tell LaForge is
Relics, yep.
obviously relics, right? LaForge has obviously been explaining to him the whole damn plot of the episode Booby Trap, and so Scotty just says, "Oh, you soured the milk," and I'm thinking every time I see it, I'm thinking they couldn't have just fucking explained that in Booby Trap. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I like I have enjoyed the fact that they are more. They don't see a lot of people think that they're I can't remember the term. They're not dumbing it down for. I think that what they're doing is making the conversations more realistic. As far like everybody in that time period would know these things, but it's not even a room full of science nerds. If they were like sitting there in a science class, wouldn't use those terminologies. They just say parts of it, and they'd know get it, and the rest would go yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It is possible that a universal human need is to explain to other people how smart you are, and that will always be with us.
AKA patronizing, which is exactly what Star Trek has always done.
Where art thou?
I know. So then so they come up with that theory, and they find out meanwhile, Tilly is freaking out inside the Mycelial network, trying to figure out what's going on. She's hyperventilating, being Tilly, and May.
Poor girl that doesn't get a break with her hair. Her hair is always a mess.
It's hard to keep hair like hers,
Yeah,
anyways.
it's wild.
So
she's starting to become the Miles O'Brien of this show. My God,
she's miles ahead.
Totally
she's miles ahead of Miles. Ha ha ha.
God. Well, he ended up in the vampire.
She's Miles the next generation. All right, I could go on all night, but anyways.
She'd be Miles the first generation, actually.
Yeah, no. Oh, they better never say that she's related to him, because I hate that crap.
Now all we have to do is wonder when they take a tooth.
Wait, what?
The Cardassian episode where they took Miles' tooth?
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they put him on trial. It's the first or second season episode. Pretty good episode, too.
Yeah, that was a great part of his backstory, the whole Cardassian Wars thing.
Okay, sorry.
All right, so moving on.
It was a Deep Space Nine. By the way, did I mention it was a Deep Space Nine episode? Anyway, move along.
Yes. So
it's required every show.
Move along home.
True. So May is trying to get Tilly to help. Says there's something infecting the network, and it's all started happening as soon as Discovery started jumping. So she agrees to help because she doesn't really have a choice. And meanwhile, and then I love the whole pinky swear thing because that leads into something later. What'd you guys think of the pinky swear thing? It's not that big of a deal, but it's a Tilly moment.
Cute. Tilly.
Yeah,
Very
it was
Tilly.
cute. It was cute.
I
love the way May said,
Why are you wiggling your
little finger?
I was about to say that, the tiny little finger.
But before we move on, I want to say that the actress that plays May is fantastic.
Sure, they all are.
Yeah,
no, they're very good. This casting
I like
is
her
excellent.
chemistry. I like her chemistry with Tilly. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yep, and it was Tilly was that whole pinky that was very very disarming, and I knew, and it's like you knew when she did that May was going to calm the fuck down. You just knew because that's how the character is.
Did you notice that
they also acknowledged the fact that she was in her head and that they share a very intimate knowledge with each other, and I'm glad that they acknowledged that.
It's almost a symbiotic. It's almost like a trail with their symbiote in some ways.
It's hard to act out a mushroom, but she did it with Blom.
You got to force. Yeah.
I do have to admit, though, it seems like Tilly is becoming our Riker as well.
Well,
she's teaching aliens to learn and to love. And
but she's not sleeping with them.
Stuff.
Well, not yet, but we did. Let me call back a little bit to the short track, the first one, Runaway, when she met the alien queen, I guess. I noticed that she easily identifies with any female alien being and seems to be able to form a bond, a friendship. I'm not trying to suggest there's something more than that, but I'm just saying I think it's interesting the way that they play this off, that Tilly is one of those characters that can form friendships with just about anyone or anything. I like that.
She's listening to a lot of Pat Benatar. She's wearing flannel. That's what you're suggesting, George.
People who didn't have a lot of friends in their childhood, in their adulthood, seek out friends more.
She's my friend. She's my friend in Star Trek Online because she's in.
She seems. Here's what she does. She seems to be able to relate to people who are vulnerable, who are damaged.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and that's a great
to being
quality.
alien. I think she understands what it's like to be alien, like to not be a part of what's
She feels like one amongst
the
exactly.
humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
And okay, so moving on a little bit. So the crew starts preparing for the mission. They find out that they can do the micro jump, but the spores are going to start attacking the hull. They figure out how long they have. They're trying to organize the plan there. And meanwhile, while they're doing that, Pike is not happy to find out Tyler's on board because all he knows is this guy killed Culbert, and he's a dangerous man. And Burnham is not authorized to explain anything to him yet, and he knows Burnham is holding something back. And also about Giorgio, and he's starting to sense some things. And so Michael's torn between the fact that, she's under orders from Starfleet not to discuss this to anyone, but at the same time, Pike's testing her honesty with him, and it's going to come into...
Well, that's a tricky thing, maybe they'll sidestep it. Star Trek often does do this kind of thing with stuff that's supposed to be...
Yes, please let this be a conversation that happens off-screen.
It reminds me, though, of Riker in Pegasus with his orders about Pegasus.
Exactly. It's the same kind of
Captain loyalty or whatever,
Or the fact that you've been explicitly told never mention this again to any living being.
I think she's going to trust him because he trusts her, and he said, "Don't make me chase you for the information."
Yep. Yeah,
I think it was clear. She made it very clear that she said, "Look, I'm going to tell you, but this is just not the time." And he was cool with that. He was like, "All right, that's fine."
I love him, by the way, as Captain
He's
Pike.
fantastic.
He's
so perfect. Give him his own fucking show already. God.
No, I want to say
okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here, guys, folks. I think Pike may actually be my favorite starship captain.
I'm agreeing.
Didn't I say that?
Yes, you did, and I'm convinced of it more and more each episode. I mean, like, even he's out Picarding Picard.
And even though it's the result of a wonderful recipe of good writers. And Dave, before we go any further, I want to mention this episode was written by someone that you're friends with, aren't you?
Yes, she's a very good friend. I love her
and
dearly.
It was a parent. Oh my God, it was a parent that she wrote there.
Well, I just want you to know.
What else has she done? Because I'm not. It didn't click.
She wrote she wrote most of the Voyager novels.
She's written a lot of Voyager novels.
That's why I never knew.
Let's name her.
She also last season wrote the one about the giant crystal
on
broadcast
Pavo
thing.
Pavo
and she is now this season. She's, I think,
giant crystal?
executive story editor.
It was the one with the Latin title.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The giant crystal that goes off into the sky that they were communicating with, and
for our audience, guys, for our audience who didn't pay that close attention, we should probably name her.
Dave. There you go. I couldn't. I'm glad you were here, Dave, because I was.
I didn't. You both just talked over each other.
Kristen Beyer is her name.
Oh, Kristen Beyer.
There we go.
Sorry.
I cannot tell you how proud I am, oddly, even though it has nothing to do with me, to have a friend who's in this position. And just to sort of explain the relationship, she is the first person that I told her and her husband soon after I had met my current wife that I thought there was something very special about this one, quote unquote, with air quotes.
CBS,
and I turned out to end up marrying her.
So
Kirsten and her husband David were the first people to hear me say that.
That's awesome. So yeah, I can understand totally that you'd be very proud. I got one of my best friends in high school that I grew up with ended up going into the industry, and he's a director. He worked with Mel Gibson on some things, and he's going to come on the show actually at some point.
Mel Gibson?
No, well, I can ask.
God damn, dude.
Do we really want Mel Gibson? Yeah, we do, actually.
Yeah, we do.
Duh.
Mel Gibson can party. What are you talking about?
Can I ask him why he won't like me because I'm Jewish?
Oh my gosh.
Dude, absolutely. Are you kidding me? My God.
I doubt we'll
get it without it.
I can ask. I have a feeling he's, you never know.
That's a sack of cats I would like to see kicked. Yeah.
But he never told me though whether he had a good working relationship with Mel, because remember the stories Kevin Smith told about Bruce Willis. So
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, that's great that she's a friend of yours and that she did an awesome episode. People are, as usual, some people out there don't like this episode, but they're the same people who don't like any of the episodes. So hell with them.
I'm interested. I will say this. I think there was a lot in the episode. If I had to give a criticism of it, there was a lot in the episode that I would have liked to see drawn over 1.5 or 2 episodes. But that's been my criticism with actually a lot of these episodes, is I feel sometimes they're a bit rushed because they're trying to get an arc of, say, 20 episodes in when they only have 14 to do it.
But I like the fact that they're doing an arc. I know what you're saying.
What is the criticism out there of people who don't like it? Just that it's more Discovery?
That's trying to remember what it is that they said about this.
Less art.
I mean, people have the same criticism of the Orville.
I had a few friends.
Cough, Sean, cough.
I had a few friends complain about this new episode that actually usually have been liking the season so far, but they didn't like this one. I wish I could remember what they said exactly, but they said something. It'll come to me before the episode's over with. Plus, I'll check on my Facebook. So moving on a little bit. So Pike is. I have about Tyler.
Did Sun just throw some shade at me and I missed it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I missed it. What
did you say?
What'd you say to him, son?
I said, well, some people have the same criticism of the Orville. Cough, Sean, cough.
Well,
damn.
That's not the only criticism I have.
Discovery this season is a completely different show than it was last season. I think we can all agree there.
Almost 50%.
Dude, I suggested that to somebody. They said, I haven't started yet. I get subscribed to see if it's all access. So I want to jump into Discovery right now. And I said, jump into season 2 first. Seriously, I really think you can.
That's what I said to our friend Raul here. And
I disagree. I mean, I agree that there's a clear marked difference between last season and this season. I think this season definitely, the show has found its footing. It's great, but I thought the first season was a great first season, and I think that one of the things, frankly, I think the show needed to do early was to create, to find its own footing, not just be Star Trek, but to be its own show as well. And I think that they did that, and unevenly, I'll admit, but they did do that.
Let's compare the first season of Discovery to the first season of Next Generation and see which is more even and has a better footing.
Dave, I posit Enterprise or Voyager or even Deep Space Nine. They were all bad.
It usually takes 3 seasons.
The first season of Voyager started really strongly.
The Kazon were looking for water.
It had some strong things in
I've
that
just
first
been
season.
revisiting.
I agree with you, but it fell into a rut.
Yeah, I just recently, and I posted about this. I've been recently rewatching the first season of Voyager. I don't hate it as much as I remember back then because I'm a different person now than back then. Mainly because Janeway is a dog lover, and I didn't catch that the first time because now I love dogs and I didn't back then. So a new appreciation, but it still doesn't make me happy. But Enterprise does, but that's another subject. So moving on a little bit, I think her name's Nan, the former chief engineer that Pike brought over with him. She's now, we find out in that same scene, the chief we didn't know this until this episode. She's been made the chief of security to replace Tyler. I thought that was cool. It's kind of sudden, but it makes interesting job swap. You go from engineer to security, but maybe that was her job at one point before. But then again, anybody can be security.
Oh, Geordi went from helm to engineering. So
yeah, exactly.
And what the hell was Worf doing before he became security? I completely forgot.
He was firing phasers.
Can you really picture Worf doing anything but security or
tactical? He replaced Yar though. Was the thing
that was a good replacement. That was a great replacement.
Oh, it was an excellent replacement, actually. I feel like in Star Trek's world, so much of security depends on engineering, surveillance systems, sensors, all of that. In my mind, it is not a big leap from one to the other.
And that explains the episode. There was an episode where Geordi asked Worf for his help on the shields and all that stuff. Yep.
If I remember correctly, there was actually a scene that they filmed but was never actually in an episode where they were in like deflector control, and it was Worf fiddling with engineering stuff.
No, well, there's an episode where Geordi, it was the Borg. I remember now, Best of Both Worlds. He when they brought Shelby on board, and they were trying to get that deflector dish to be the weapon. He asked Worf for help because he was having problems with one of the shield things or whatever.
My guess is you have to do a lot of cross training in outer
That's
space.
exactly what I was going to
pretty
say
much.
when I had a chance. Yeah.
You got your primary things and your secondary. I mean, whatever. When I was in the Army, I was primarily support, handling ammo for tanks and driving vehicles. And then the other thing I did was I like to cook. So my secondary job was I could work in the kitchen if I had to.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty clear for the past 50 years that you have to be very versatile in Starfleet. I mean, again, it's a paramilitary organization. I mean,
they also don't have a lot of people, Sean. That's another thing too. I mean, we tend to think of Starfleet as an endless resource, but every ship is its own
isolated community, right?
I remember Uhura taking navigation when somebody was, console blew up in their face or whatever.
Right, exactly. It makes sense.
And TOS or one of the JJ movies?
The original series.
Right.
Huh.
Gotta wear a lot of hats.
Original series.
Gotta wear a lot of hats.
I mean,
actually, in one of the early episodes in season 1, she's at the helm, or maybe navigation. And then there's a more famous one, I think in the second or third season where she is as well. So I was surprised.
She gets command in the animated series. She gets command in the animated series.
Yeah, in the animated series.
Because all the men
are gone,
are trapped on a siren planet.
Gotcha.
Hey, you do what you can do in the early 70s.
I would suffer and beam down to the siren planet as well. That's an excellent plan.
Yeah, but it results in death.
Well, okay.
Snoo, my friend. Snoo.
It's like that Harry Kim episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Poor Harry Kim.
There's a reason he stayed in.
The longest living ensign in history.
Yeah, and the whole thing about there wasn't a job slot available. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Why they could promote acting Ensign Crusher to Ensign Crusher, and you can't find a job slot to give Ensign Kim lieutenant. Anyways,
it's a rank. Give him the damn rank.
I know.
I mean, they literally demoted and re-promoted Paris while Kim was still an ensign.
Yeah, they just want to find reasons to have an ensign on the show. But anyways,
that's a comic waiting to happen, like lonely Chief O'Brien.
I mean, I'm surprised they could have made Neelix an acting something, but no. Oh, they did. Ambassador. Anyways,
Ambassador. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, wasn't Chief like the highest civilian rank he could even have to begin
NCO?
with?
Yeah, he was Master Petty Officer.
They gave Neelix the job of unofficial official CBS archivist. Carlos gets it.
So Berman
that's it. By the way, George, that's an accident reference. If you want.
Oh, all right. I didn't catch that. I didn't catch it. Although I have been reading Kate Stark's things, but that's a separate subject. Burnham and Stamets take the time when they get stuck in there to go into the network. They find, it doesn't take long. I'm glad they didn't drag that out to find Tilly and May, and then we get the big reveal. Oh my God! The monster turns out to be Culbert.
Yeah.
Am I the only person that went, "Oh, they're holding hands"?
Wait, who was holding hands?
I sighed.
Wait, who was holding hands?
Burnham and Stamets.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's sweet.
I can't remember if it was them entering the thing or it was them entering the Mycelial network.
I mean, it makes sense. They had to make sure, it's fine.
It was a nice moment.
They've had good friends ever since that Harry Mudd episode with the time loop. They've always had a close
been through a lot. They're friends.
And I'd like to point out about that too. That this is another case on this show where I wasn't even convinced he was making it out of there. I mean, because of the way this show has been. You never know.
They pulled a lot of. Okay, so we'll talk.
Nobody is safe.
So they found.
Right.
So again, we get that big reveal that he's the monster they're talking about. I didn't think this was going to be the episode where they did this, but it started as soon as I saw that. I was like, aha! It was starting to click. And then ideas came to my head about. Okay, I kept saying I made some discussions with Carlos about how the reason I had a theory at first that we were going to see that Culbert was from the mirror universe wasn't because I thought that trope was going to be played out. It was that how do we get a body? So what I originally thought was going to happen was they were going to have the mind of Culbert and do a search for Spock, Katra, Bones, Spock body number 2 thing, where the body is the mirror body of Culbert, and it gets merged with the mind of the Culbert trapped in the network. But they came up with something a little bit more interesting.
Damn, George, you're convoluted in there, aren't you?
Oh, that was pretty convoluted.
I'm still a little unclear as to why the mycelial network provided him a mycelial form.
I don't think.
She explained it like they could convert it one way, but she didn't know how to convert it the other because she didn't.
Well, I think the question is though, how do you get, a consciousness or whatever out of one person into a mycelial network?
Well, where did his actual DNA come from?
Well, spores.
Well, the spores remade it.
Yeah, how?
The spores, they had an anomaly on their hands, and the only way they could solve that anomaly was by rebuilding what they thought it was.
But if his energy, which was transferred through the kiss to the mycelial network,
I agree.
Does his energy have DNA? I was very confused by it, but I really like Culber, so I'm willing to accept it.
Yeah, I'll take
it. It's a little bit of an ass, but not much. But the other thing also is
it's weird because it's a play on it's his soul thing. That's the whole point.
Well, not really, because they did set it up. Hold on, real quick. I just want to spit this one out, and then you can take it over. I just want to point out that one of the ongoing threads throughout this episode that keeps coming up like beats in a song is they keep mentioning the energy conversion thing. Like energy doesn't.
Energy never dissipates.
And that whole beat plays throughout the whole thing nicely to be a reminder when these sort of moments come up when you're looking for that explanation about energy transferring, it's not destroyed.
Am I crazy, or did Stamets say that he had the DNA and was giving it to them? He had he had his DNA pattern and could give it to them. I could have sworn he said that.
Well, he has that tardigrade DNA in him, so I don't know.
No.
I actually think.
I mean,
one second. I'd like to get out what I was going to say.
Yeah, Raul's been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
I actually think the energy is a metaphor for love. I know that's kind of sappy, but I definitely think that love and relationships are what they're getting at with energy.
I think they were going literally more scientific on this one, but it could be.
It was more science fantasy than science fiction.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, but a
lot of Star Trek is. So
that's the idea that this is somehow more scientific than say Star Wars is laughable. There's no basis.
Okay, so when he's actually describing what happened,
the chill filled the room.
True. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to tell you the truth. I apologize.
Well, when he's describing what happens, he literally says he was still in this just mind space of being in between realities in the network when Culbert died. So him grabbing Culbert and all that stuff was supposedly him not only reacting with the real world, but him pulling all of Culbert essentially also with him into the network somewhat.
All right, I've now decided then that through that kiss was not only energy, but some DNA.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there would be DNA transfer.
Yeah, you do DNA swabs inside the mouth. I mean,
but the whole point of that to me was, you're making this big, huge scientific explanation for you literally trapped his soul in the mycelial network.
Yeah, but a soul is not a quantifiable theory.
Let's concede that souls exist. It's still energy. It's
consciousness.
Every time we've had this kind of discussion in other episodes, even in the Next Generation, it's always been the consciousness is considered the soul.
Right. So I just said it is, and also Katras and the Vulcan thing.
Yes. Let's accept Katras. We're accepting.
We have to accept Katras. We have to accept that there's a consciousness. It's energy. No matter what, it's all energy.
But also Star Trek accepted ESP, which has no basis in reality. They have mind melds, and mind melds, by the way, across light years.
Yeah.
They have psychic species. I mean, this is
so we can accept this.
We're getting a little overly nerdy on that part. I worry about this stuff.
Here's the thing. I'm going to go back to what Dave said in the beginning. I don't give a shit. I'm just glad they brought Culber back. I don't care how they did it.
They gave us some technical reason. Who cares? And if you can have this mushroom drive across space, you can have Culbert come back.
If you're flying across the universe on magic mushrooms, everything's possible.
That's right.
By the way, pick off my pizza.
By the way, we can remove the is dead counter.
Oh yeah.
Same way we don't count Spock either. Yeah, of course not.
Well, no, the Culbert is dead counter still dead in this episode.
I was comparing
we can remove it now.
And, it was reversed. So yeah, the polarity was reversed on that one. So they find he's alive. He's the monster.
Is he still the same Culbert though, or does he smell a little?
He's going to smell a lot fresher now.
Well,
he does smell a little woody.
The actor said something very interesting in his Ready Room interview, where he said he'd read a book about PTSD. So my feeling is that the Culber that we get back is not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I will argue with them.
I'd really be really happy with that.
Okay, I would too. I think he needs to be traumatized. He needs to be.
Well, the problem is there's a PTSD or any of those things, neurotransmitters, the things. It's not just your experiences. Your brain, there's an actual physical change in there. So if this is a fresh, completely new body, he should be purged of that. But at the same time,
I don't think it's quite that simple. Trauma is trauma.
If he has the memories, then that could actually make it. Yeah, I can see that now. I talked myself into being insane. Okay, yeah, basically. At first, I was going to come up with a nerdy.
Wait! He literally just said he talked himself into being sane. Guys, we have a first here. George is sane now.
No way! I don't believe it.
I've done it before. I've talked myself into out of a situation, as far as an opinion by simply speaking. I'm cool that way.
That's the whole point of therapy.
What we do on Skype cam does not matter, George. Doesn't matter.
Well, some people talk to their imaginary spore friends. I talk to myself. Anyways.
Who's also imaginary.
Yeah.
Ouch.
You're my spore friend, George.
Well,
with the suck-up
I'm starting to look back now, and I'm thinking maybe my imaginary friend was not imaginary. Maybe a spore land.
It was Carlos.
It was Carlos all this time?
It was actually Angelina Jolie before Angelina Jolie was on the movie screens. I just somehow
people get her and me mixed up all the time.
That's right. That's right. They look alike.
It's the lips.
So Burnham and they're trying. While Discovery is trying to hold itself together, they have to try to stop Maya from Maya. Whatever Maya is it? Maya.
Maya.
May.
You're adding too many syllables, bro.
Yeah. I'm thinking of something else.
He's thinking of the graphics program.
Yeah, it could be. Actually, I was talking
about Maya Angelou.
Or the Mayan Empire. Or the Mayan Empire.
I know why the cage spore sings.
Maya Angelou.
Wow, we just covered a lot of cultural territory there, folks.
Son, you're elevating us a little too far.
This is out of control.
Let her get it out of her system. It's all good. All right. And then, so they're trying to hold themselves together, stop her from killing Culbert because he's, it turns out he's defending himself. These root things he's summoning are a way of defending himself against the evil spores, or he sees them as evil because they're trying to kill him. And I guess he's been there a while, but we don't know how time works in the network. But his reaction suggests that he's been there a while. So
his hair.
Can we make a distinction, by the way? We keep calling the Josep spores, and what I got from the episode was that the Josep is a distinct life form.
Yeah. Oh, is that what May is?
Spores they're using on the ship.
I don't know that term being used. Okay.
You're being this is borderline on mushroom racism here, so I want to just
settle
this down.
Sporist, anti-vegetarian propaganda.
I think we would have had a much bigger problem about using the spore drive if they had decided that the spores they're using essentially as fuel, are in fact sentient.
Right, exactly.
I see what
The
you're saying.
job sap and the spores that they use are different things.
Yeah, she's an inhabitant of the mycelium.
Right, she's just not the
network.
spore. Okay, I got that.
Right.
Although it was a spore that made the connection.
Okay. Excuse me. I think the term is myceliist. Thank you.
There you go, mycelius.
You're such a myceliist.
You're on fire today, son. I tell you.
I don't. You need to separate spore from whatever that thing's called. And my joke doesn't, if I'd remembered it, the joke would have worked, but it failed because of that.
It's George.
So then, while they're trying to get out of the network, once they convince May to back off, Tilly does a nice little "you don't have to shoot him" thing, and she trusts her, and that's nice and everything. And a little cliche.
I was happy we were going to see some gunfire.
You're evil. And then they're come.
I will be 100% honest. I fully expected Tilly to accidentally fire the phaser the moment Burnham said Tilly. Just out of sheer reaction to being called out.
I actually thought, I don't know what I thought.
Oh, can we talk about the phasers for a second?
Sure.
So, one of my favorite moments in this, there two of my favorite moments in this episode. Three of my, no, sorry, just two, were Burnham Giorgio moments. One was when Giorgio gets off the shuttle and everyone puts down their phasers except for Burnham.
Oh yeah,
because all of that stuff is going through her head.
That actually didn't work for me because she made peace with her at the last time she saw her, but whatever.
No, she didn't. It wasn't
didn't.
peace. It was tentative peace.
Yeah.
Also, she was on her brother's
it's North
shuttle.
Korea, South Korea peace.
Oh, we skipped over a moment that Carlos loved that I actually got.
Wait a minute. Did you hear what Dave just said?
What?
The other side to this was that she was on her brother's shuttle.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Oh, and Carlos had a moment. He mentioned it in the chat, but I picked up on it when Giorgio. I have to bring this up because we skipped over that. But Giorgio drops that apple, and I got the metaphor as meaning the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Meaning, you were one way in my universe. You're capable of being that woman. Is that what you got out of it, everybody, or anybody else?
I can see.
Well, I think there's a lot of levels to that particular scene. There's definitely sort of a Garden of Eden sort of thing going on with the serpent and the apple, and
that's why
knowledge of good and
I
evil.
got out of it.
Thing.
I'm going to make a mess, and you're going to clean it up.
Yeah,
I got that.
But it was just a nice way of showing that threat behind Giorgio. That's still intermixed. It's clear Giorgio has feelings for Burnham. Still, even though it's not her Burnham. She respects her at the very least, and I think probably even loves her, even though she thinks that she's wrongheaded because she's from the Federation. But I like the complexity of the relationship and how it is, how they're sort of teasing that out as the series moves forward.
Carlos, it's like a disappointed. One second, George. It's like a disappointed mentor kind of relationship.
Yes.
Well, also she raised Michael in her universe.
Yes,
right.
She didn't just meet her and do a mission for 7 years. It was
I know. That's the reason why. But here's the other thing. I'm going to throw out my Giorgio theory. They've started making these little hints that she is not as her heart is not as frozen solid as she would have you believe. You saw it in, when she was sneaking that peek at the Klingon baby in the last episode. And this episode, her line about have faith and, her going out of her way to buy them those extra 3 minutes that made all the difference. And, all these little things that she doesn't have to do that she's doing anyway. And they're letting us kind of see.
Well, this is why they had the coup in the first place.
She probably in her past had to put on a certain face. You have to in the Empire in order to get anywhere. And
I was gonna say she likes who she is now. Who that she can possibly.
Yeah, she's sort of freed from the burdens of being an emperor.
I also think that if they're smart, and I think they're very smart, in her own series, we're going to see a character arc with her. And that is going to be not just her trying to change maybe Section 31, but just Federation, not necessarily
Challenging her.
Starfleet, but this universe changing her somewhat.
Yeah,
I
it's,
think so,
it's,
too.
it's the challenge between who she is and who she can be.
I was reminded of an episode I rewatched recently of The Sopranos where Tony had been injured, and in the mob, if you're the boss and you start to show like weakness, like that you're not as tough as you used to be, people start to pounce on that and they treat you differently. And he started noticing it throughout the episode, and he had to prove that he was still someone to be feared. So he just picked a fight with this nice guy that was driving him around, that was one of his crew, that he just beat the crap out of him and he told his counselor he didn't want to do it, but he had no choice because everybody started looking at him as he was getting weak, and he had to look strong. I think that's what Georgiou's been through in that universe, and that's what made her the way she was. She didn't want to be that way, but she had to.
She wanted to be that way. Don't kid yourself.
I think she's
That's
having
the way
fun.
she was raised.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing. That you guys are talking about all this different stuff with the apple. Do you want to know what I saw? I saw a woman who took what she wanted, used it, and then discarded it like it was nothing.
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah, no,
like
that's what I meant by I've made a mess and you're cleaning up. She's like, I got what I wanted out of it, and you'll pick up the pieces.
And she even
Dave, you sultry temptress, you.
Well, she also said she likes the Federation because it's fun that she's so different from it, because she sees that she sees possibilities of, we could turn this into something interesting. Let's see what happens.
Well, I made my opinions clear on Space Hitler here. But I'm starting to. One thing I can say about Georgiou is that she's nothing if not pragmatic, and I would tend to agree that the one-dimensional Georgiou we saw, Empress Georgiou we saw in the Mirror Universe, and that Empire is probably going to be, like they said, it's going to be fleshed out more. Who her background, who she came from. We're going to get things like, well, look, I could have done X, Y, and Z, and that would have destroyed everything and killed billions of people, but instead I chose to do this, and it only killed millions of people. Things like that.
I agree.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna give this new
Truman's
gang
choice. What
I'm
you're talking about,
right.
Sean.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this new staff, this new team here, credit on being able to provide us a much more nuanced and sympathetic Georgiou than we.
So
had.
not Space Stalin, just Space Lenin.
Well, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Space lemons.
All right, let's move on a little bit.
The Voyager?
Yeah. We'll move on a little bit. Discovery gets some unexpected help when Tyler uses a little nifty TNG callback badge to contact Leland, and an asteroid turns out to be the Section 31 ship in holographic camouflage. So that was kind of cool. And so they start trying to tractor beam, or they argue with Pike about when to tractor beam while they're waiting for the others, the away team, Mycelial away team, to come back. And that was pretty awesome. And what did you guys think of that part?
Okay, so this tractor beam thing seems like a callback to Enterprise, because if you remember the Battle of the Binary Stars, they used the classic. The Europa used the classic tractor beam, and this is an entirely different kind of tractor beam.
I think
Yeah,
that's
it seems
because
to-
this was in a very specific. This is a stronger than usual tractor beam because they were in a very specific sort of circumstance that required it.
It was very interesting to me to see that difference, the latching on of the.
It was like an energy
what I would
space
call the hubs.
grappler.
It was the hubs and then the energy beams to the ship itself. That was an interesting.
In specific locations, I like it. Was kind of like the transporter version of the pattern enhancers.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I dug
focused
that. I thought
the
it was
energy,
kind of
yeah.
cool.
Well, and part of the ship was in mycelial space, so they could not get what I assume would be a normal lock, which would be to get the whole
They
ship.
needed that physical connection. Right?
Otherwise, you tear the ship apart.
Well, it also the energy needed something to be like a.
Well, my big question
conduit.
is: do all of these ships have this?
We don't know. It could be Section 31 could have its own resources.
Section 31. I think that
Pike knew what it was, though.
She described her Section 31 as a group of misfits. Her particular group. Not that all of them were like this.
No, but we've also seen, even though this is not really superly connected, I mean, even in the JJ films, we know Section 31 gets resources that's, above and beyond the normal. So.
Well,
I
it's
wanna
like
tell
any
you-
intelligence agency, really.
Yeah, exactly. Funds get diverted, but
and they also
it's in the
lock
Do you
budget
think a
somewhere.
hammer costs $12, George? No, come on,
Right.
give me a break.
$30,000 for a toilet?
I take issue with that. I bought some pretty expensive hammers in my time, but
We don't want to talk about your drinking habits, Sean. Please.
Well, I want to say this. My favorite part of that whole scene was when Ash when he calls and Leland's like, "Say no more," and it's like right on it, because in that single moment, we realize right then and there that, hey, these guys are on our side. Okay, they may have their own agenda, but they're not the bad guys.
Well,
that's
he
didn't even hesitate.
You don't know, because he did argue, well, my guys, two of my people are on your ship, so we don't know for sure. I like the way they left it ambiguous.
Yeah, but
to me, Leland reminds me of Cisco, in that he's willing to do.
That.
Yeah, he does a lot. There's a lot of similarities.
Explain.
I don't agree.
Well,
go ahead.
Cisco was willing to go outside of the Federation constantly to get his mission done.
Yeah, he was.
I don't think we know Leland well enough to know
Yeah, we don't.
if there's a.
I
kind of see the
agree.
direction you're heading in, Raul. I just don't think we know enough to be able to
We
draw
don't
that
have-
sort of
He has his
connection
own
yet.
show, so we'll see.
Because we're meeting Leland right out the gate as a rogue type character, so we don't really know what he's all about.
I think.
By the way, I loved Pike saying, "What the hell kind of communicator is that?"
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I liked even the little trill when it went off.
Yep, it was perfect. But I did appreciate that. Like I said, I think the biggest message we got across is that you got guys with two different styles of doing things here, but at the end of the day, they're on the same team. And I guarantee there's going to be conflict.
And we're going to talk about that when we talk about the last scene. So let's just jump to Burnham and the rest.
I do want to say it would have been cheesy, but I would have absolutely loved it if Tyler had retorted, "Oh, it's next generation tech."
You know what? That would have worked as a double entendre. I like that.
That would have been fantastic.
That would have been a great Easter egg.
I think it would have been horrible.
Excuse me.
Like it wasn't already on the
In your
nose
face,
as it was.
Yeah, it would have been funny though. It would have been amusing. You need to talk to your friend about that. Anyways, or maybe they had it there and they changed it.
That's great.
Yeah,
I think the way they did it was just right.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Any more, and it would have been as if it was sort of written, for a fan film or something.
But
here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's somebody in the writers' room that came up with that,
and they went, "Oh, that's funny. Let's see if they want that in there."
Yeah, let's not do that.
I would bet you anything that since it was Kirsten's script, if somebody had suggested that, she would have said, no.
Here's the thing. I also look at it from a real-world military application. Almost everything that is in development for the military is called next generation tech.
Right, we get it, but it would have been. I think it would have been hilarious.
But it's just too blatant.
It's all right.
Is the thing. I agree, but it would have been. I do like it though.
Maybe there's a deleted scene. We'll find out later where they do say that.
Call Kirsten. Find out.
Yeah. Well, maybe she can't tell us yet. But Burnham and the rest make it back, and they get pulled out before everybody gets destroyed by the network. The bridge was getting kind of tight squeezed there. I don't know why they didn't just go to the turbo lift and go to a different station.
That looked great, by the way. The way
cool.
The bridge was breaking up.
Yep. And they make it back, and Culbert, a sad moment. Culbert couldn't. They discovered he can't cross back through, and they say their goodbyes, and it's heartbreaking. But he says you got to go on and do your thing, and because he doesn't actually have a body. So Stamets.
I was actually kind of rooting for us to lose him at this point.
Oh, you horrible person, you!
You're a terrible person, son.
Really? God,
I might have to edit that out so people.
Please,
I'm coming to Son's defense on this one.
Oh man,
we've spent so much.
As well.
We spent so much time hearing he's not dead. He's not dead. Now he can't go back. Please, just kill him off. Let him go. let the guy go.
No, but they would have just dragged it out. You know, they would have.
I would have. The thing is, I would have been okay because I thought that, like I said, that they weren't going to bring him back, but I didn't think he was going to die. I figured it would come up episodes later when they would figure out a way to bring him back.
Well, the guy, and Dave will know what I'm talking about because he apparently saw that Ready Room episode. I saw the actor who plays Culver. Off the top, I can't remember his name.
Wilson Cruz.
Wilson Cruz. He did say that.
I met him last summer, by the way.
Oh, cool. Was it on a cruise? I make bad moves.
No, it was at a film festival.
Well, one of the things he pointed out was the reason they did the whole bring back him was they are trying to course correct and listen to the fans who flipped out that they killed off the gay character and they loved him anyways, and they just, and they want.
Okay, first of all,
that was the plan from the start.
They planned it from the start.
Was it?
This whole we're listening to the fans thing is ridiculous.
Oh,
the little spore that infected Tilly was in like the 10th episode of last season.
We knew, right?
The little green spore.
And they basically said it back then. They said so. He's coming back. He's not gone.
They did mention that. You're right. Now, yeah, I remember now.
Look, Wilson Cruz came right out and said it during After Trek that he ain't gone. So relax.
Also, I might be misquoting him too, because there was a lot of articles out there. He said they're listening to the fans when it comes to.
Well, no, he did say that they are listening to the fans.
Yeah,
but not specifically with him.
I mean,
right.
that's also the little moves toward it being more like the original series that we know. They also said that before we even saw the premiere of Discovery. They said, we're going to show you how we get the Federation that you're used to.
Yep. Yeah, they made it very clear. Alex Kurtzman recently, they made it very clear that they listen to the fans, but it's not about it's about more aesthetic things than anything else. It's not about major plot points. They're not going to, if they ever start listening to the fans about plot points, I will stop watching. No,
I will cut my wrists.
I mean, really, I'm done.
Here's the thing.
Artists, one second, son. Artists make art. That's what they do. And Dave is an artist. He creates. And when you create, you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. It ruins the meal.
Yeah, and you sure as hell can't let your audience decide
dictate
the course of
in gaming.
Of the
unfortunately,
stories.
that has happened way too often, which I complain of constantly.
I think I'm misremembering something that was quoted today on one of my feed things. That it made it sound like he said that about this situation. But you
have to remember.
Go ahead, John.
You have to remember, even if he did say that, that is literally a boilerplate PR response to anything. Yeah. We are listening to feedback.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. Right. Very good, son. Very
well,
good.
Let's I totally agree.
Son is on fire.
She is.
But, by the way, did you call me an artist?
Yes, she did.
Oh, well, okay.
Actually, that was Raul who did that.
You are.
I was going to say artiste.
I'm not sure that I mean, I guess occasionally sometimes I stumble into it. But mostly I would say I'm the guy who's making the vase that's going to hold the flowers. And sometimes it gets a little artsy.
You're way underselling yourself, Dave. I'm sorry.
He does it all the time.
Writers and creators are artists.
We're having a moment. You heard it here, folks. Dave Galanter, it's an artiste.
See, here's the thing. I agree with Sean in the respect that you can't, like, even with those novels I read as a kid, the choose your own adventure stuff, that stuff was already written out. It was just the illusion of choice.
That's true. I agree. I used to love those, but yeah, you're right. So we get the big cocoon back. It works. Yay! We get him back. So that is something that they've been hinting at. But I'm glad they didn't drag this plot point out too long in this season. 5 episodes, that's fine. Because some things like this, take, I don't know, like Spock, for example. Maybe in a couple episodes, Carlos will be all right. But anyway, some things get dragged out way too long, like in soap operas. And they didn't really do that. I like that. Especially, this is another reason I like the shorter season things, because shows, I'm not trying to sidetrack, but shows like on CW that go 20-something episodes still, split and have to take a break mid-season. It's like some little things get dragged out so long, it gets like, oh my god, come on. Can we just
here's the thing about not seeing Spock yet. If Spock actually has information about these signals and about this Red Angel, you can't have him in the third episode.
Right.
I mean, you need to draw out the
Exactly.
mystery to a certain degree.
You do, because he's the Rosetta Stone to trying to solve a language problem, sort of thing. We need him to solve the rest of the puzzle. So they're looking for the person that's going to help them solve.
Plus,
I think a lot of shippers need him as well.
They also can't continue any other plot points because they have to go after the main plot point at that point.
Can you explain the shipper comment?
The people who ship like pairs.
Merchant Marines?
But which
But-
but-
ship are you
I
referring
thought
to?
that was always supposed to be
Spock.
like a Kirk Spock thing or something.
Yeah. We need Spock for the shipping. We can't just not have him.
With
But to
who
ship
in this
with who?
series, though?
To have him with Kirk later, we need him.
Oh, well,
Oh,
he's-
you mean
we know he's
long-term.
not
Yeah,
going to
of
die.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're going to get him eventually because we need him. Otherwise, all the ships don't happen. Because he's not on them.
Oh,
True.
oh, okay.
So basically,
Dave.
Sun's theory is that it's not a matter of the like 200 years of history that Spock has in the franchise. It's the fact that if we don't get him back, we're going to undo all the canon, non-canon of the slash. Is what it comes down to. Is that pretty much what we're talking about here?
Can't you just, pull up one of the old shows and fap to that or something?
Oh my God.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dave.
and I can. Yes,
They don't
you
call it
rattle
Fane
off a
Wink
list
for
of
nothing.
Fan service done to a new level.
All right,
If it
so
doesn't happen in this, it can't happen in TOS. Because timeline.
Oh, to
Nobody
party
is suggesting that Spock is in any danger of dying.
them. Right.
no, he's died later and then comes back. But anyways, so we get that back now. The moment that I like, well, we talked about Carlos mentioned this earlier, but we get to the point where Pike and Leland, I don't know why I'm calling him Lamar. Leland and Pike are having a talk on the ship, and Cornwall shows up, Admiral Cornwall, and she bridges the two, kind of gives a little kind of, we gotta work together so we can set up that other show speech. What you guys think of that?
I like
Well,
what you
was
said. You
weird.
both might be right, and you both might be wrong. Just sort of reinforcing that. Yeah, we still don't know what the hell's going on here, guys.
They said that magic word we've heard throughout Star Trek.
Which one?
Tachyons.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's so tacky.
More space.
Am I
magic.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, good point. We'll bring up.
Am I the only one that was kind of weirded out that the Admiral was there? Like, she wasn't a hologram, she was literally there?
She obviously hitched a ride. At some point.
No, I wasn't, and this goes back to what I appreciate about what they're doing with Section 31 in normalizing it, and that's what I'm glad she was there, because that just kind of sealed the deal on that.
That's the only problem with that. And I agree with you, Sean, that from a broader storytelling standpoint, it's better that she's there. But I think there is a little bit of a plot hole in her having been on board that Section 31 ship, because remember when she reproves each guy, when it gets to Leland, she says, "You're the one who stood by while, a fellow starship captain was in danger, and you didn't do anything." Well,
So
if
she
she
might be
was on the
open.
ship, why did she let
say-
that happen?
Well, how
Right,
much?
why does she
But
say
how much time passed?
Well, no, she wasn't there. She was transported there.
No, she was there. From what we're not seeing any signs that there's another ship.
We don't know
Came by.
when she got on that ship.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
sure.
To me, it seemed like some time passed because Culber was in sick
Yeah, you
bay,
might be
still
right.
being scanned, and they sort of had a montage
Okay.
that suggested
Okay,
some time
yeah,
had
no, I
passed.
can see that.
No, yep. I never thought about that. That's true.
I'm like George. You talked me out of it.
See,
Well,
that's
George
that's
talks
the
himself
problem.
out of it.
That's the problem I have with Discovery at this point, is that we're somehow supposed to assume that time has passed, and yet we get no real indication of it.
I think the visual cue was there though. Like they said,
in
like, he
television
got out
and
of the
movies, a
cocoon,
montage typically shows time having passed.
and he's in the
Yeah,
ship.
absolutely.
I can see that. It's not that.
It's a trope.
Yeah.
This is a problem with
Well,
every
and
show
then there was
that
the
takes place.
reverse problem at the beginning of
It's
the
always
episode,
night.
when you had that whole montagey thing going on over under Burnham's voiceover, and it made it seem like quite a bit of time had passed since Tilly had disappeared into the cocoon, and it turns out that not really that much time had passed at all.
Oh, that's a good point. I actually did get the impression that more time.
Yeah, rewatch those first 5 minutes, and you'll see that it makes you feel like some time has passed, like they've really been searching a long time to try to get her out or find out where she is, and then you realize later that not much time has passed at all.
By the way, I got to tell you, I tend not to like Burnham's stuff, the little voiceovers that she has. I actually liked this one. I connected with it, and I thought it was real good. I'm not just saying that because Kristen's my friend, because I've actually.
But it's good.
I don't know if you guys remember the show Heroes with Mohinder, and his narrations I always referred to as Mohinderances because they stopped me in my tracks. And occasionally Burnham has been like that, but it wasn't for this episode.
It can happen that way for sure. I come from this school of thought in screenwriting that if you have to go to voiceovers, that means you probably have some other structural weakness in your script. So, I mean, that's not 100% true, but in general, if you're hearing a voiceover, that means there's some sort of problem that only a voiceover can fix.
I think they're using it as a device here to make sure that we understand sort of that Burnham is the main character, and I think that tends to not work very well, as you're suggesting. Yeah. This time, however, it worked for me.
I agree. This time, it definitely works. I think the other one where it worked well was last season, that voiceover she did at the while they were in the mirror universe, and she was like struggling with not
losing herself.
I thought that one worked too.
Yep, I agree with that too.
Yep, and
I want to say again, it is really apparent that this is a Kristen Beyer story, because you have this character in the episode who's going through a bunch of self-reflection in the beginning. That a bunch of weird stuff happens, a bunch of hyper-emotional stuff happens, there's a bunch of reflection again, and then we're left with this somewhat happy ending that also still has a whole bunch of doubt left on it.
Yep, and I will say this, in a second I want to talk about, we have enough time to talk about the trailer for the next one, because I'm really excited about next week, big time, but even though this was a great episode, every episode has been good so far, but I do want to say that as far as the Admiral Cornwall thing goes, that scene to me felt like the biggest backdoor pilot moment I have ever seen. I want to compare it to
George, I think you're a little obsessed with backdoor pilots, and Raul,
maybe I'm just
before you go
there. Use that phrase. Particularly,
I knew you were going to go there.
I want to say setup, because this was like what this reminded me of is. Oh, I remember now. It reminded me of the spin-off Class from Doctor Who, when the Doctor shows up to kind of remind everybody, you can do this, and you got this rift, but you guys are the guys that are going to defend it and do that, and I'm going to leave now. That's what it felt like. But that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It just
made me feel bad because I liked Class.
No, it's not a bad thing. I like that they did this moment because I think it's good.
Well, I mean, does anybody remember Assignment Earth? Hello.
That was that one was anything like that. I think they are merely crafting an extended universe narrative, and they're tying some threads that are maybe going to tie into the Section 31 series later. But I didn't feel this was a pilot at all.
No, I don't mean it was a pilot. I think, like Son actually gave the best example. When they originally meant for Assignment Earth to be a spinoff that never happened, what Kirk and Spock was talking to Gary Seven and whatever his name was, or his Miss Kennedy, whatever her name was, Terry Gar. They were basically saying some stuff about things that they could do while they're in this situation before they left, and that was like the sort of a handoff thing that I felt like this moment had.
Yeah, Kirk.
Her name was Roberta Lincoln, by the way.
Well, look,
Kirk essentially goes to the point of saying, we don't doubt you'll have a bunch of wonderful adventures.
That's what I mean. It wasn't that this was a pilot. It was that they were setting up for her to say to the audience, "This is the situation we're in when we get into this new show." I like it.
Look, here's how I look at that. Again, we all know it's no mystery that there's a Section 31 series coming. This is established, okay? So, like I said, to me, it's coming back to this episode went a long way to normalize Section 31. If for people who may have doubts or may not realize what Section 31 is all about going into it. So, like I said before, I've been hesitant about the Section 31 series because I'm concerned about, again, Space Hitler leading the way. And of course, I like the idea of Section 31, but if it's going to be just the dark Deep Space Nine Section 31, I'm not really sure how much you can do with that.
I agree.
Well, and I don't think that's what that's going to be.
I agree.
I don't like
I
the
think
idea
it's
of
going to be
Section 31 philosophically, but I got to tell you, every time I see Mycelial on screen, my concerns melt away.
Yep.
I'm so with you on that one, Dave. I feel exactly the same way.
It's a lot more nuanced, and I do like her a lot more as the Empress Giorgio than I did as Captain Giorgio. I will say that.
Can you please stop calling her Space Hitler then?
Yes, thank you.
I think that
because honestly, Space Hitler doesn't dress that well.
That's true. I'm looking forward to seeing the extra characters that they bring into the crew when they start the actual series, because we know Tyler, we know Leland, and we know Georgia. I'm interested to see how they flesh out and who the other misfit characters like the Suicide Squad in space is going to be like. I think
I just want to say, none of us really know what the hell this Section 31 thing is going to be. I just really hope they use a reformatted version of the Rescue 911 thing.
I really think we do know, son, how it's going to be. I think this whole season has been telling us how it's going to be. I think that's
because if anything, what a Section 31 show should be literally them running around saving people.
Literally, they are showing us each time they pop up in this season what the show is going to be like, more and more, and it's going to be cool.
And every time Section 31 shows up this season, what are they doing? Saving people.
I just want to know the name of that ship. I don't know if it's something that's been said but not on screen yet.
The USS Chrome.
If they're smart, it doesn't have a name.
That's
right.
Probably
I think the same
probably
thing.
Doesn't have a name.
I don't know, because they named it The Vengeance. No, that's hey, I know
that's a different universe.
It would be hilarious if it was called
I'm not talking about
Cheney,
that
by the
movie.
way.
It is
hilarious.
The Cheney.
No, they'll give it a name. I'm sorry. They'll give it a name. They will.
It is the NX-31.
No, they're going to give it a name. I'm sorry. I'll argue that I will bet on this when the show's getting ready. They will give it a name, because it's like one of those things that it's part of the signature thing of any of these stories. They're gonna give the ship its own name.
That's kind of like betting on the coin toss in the Super Bowl. Who cares?
They named everything in Star Trek.
Did we do a round the table rating on this episode?
No, but we're going to in a second. I also want to talk about the promo for next week. Before I do the promo for next week discussion. No, let's do that after. I mean the rating. Real quick.
What do we
think?
Can I say one last thing about before we go to the next week?
Okay, because we got a few more minutes. But go ahead.
I never thought I would see Star Trek advance its storylines to this point, where I only can usually find in fiction like Dave writes. Advanced, adult, complex, emotionally engaging. Thing.
Okay, stop kissing ass.
I'm not. It's just.
I know.
You're an artist, Dave. You're an artist, Dave.
All right,
I'm an artiste.
That's
right.
You're an artiste. Okay, so real quick, I'm excited that they're gonna. I don't know if the Bowel, whatever they're called, from the
Kaminar.
Kaminar,
like me, but with a B.
From the short trek, are going to be the regular new bad guys. Well, I don't know if
whoa! Did Carlos just squeal?
I squealed.
So I don't know if they're meant to be the new original baddies for this series for a while.
Nope.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, either way,
I think they're one and done.
I like it, though. I agree. I like it. They look creepy as hell. The ships they're called obelisk ships, and I think I'm curious as to what their tech level is against the Discovery. I love that line in the promo where Pike's putting on his captain red alert captain hat, where he's like, you sir, whoever you are, you seriously want to reconsider what you're about to do in the next few minutes, because I love that threat, that veiled threat.
I hope Pike fucks their shit up.
I do.
Comes down to.
I want to see tactical Pike in this episode.
Honestly, I do too. I want to see him just totally go.
I want that so bad. I want this to be the episode that Pike becomes Kirk.
Okay, boys. Settle down. Remember,
Here's a-
Starfleet is a peaceful
The boys
organization.
have a new toy. They have a new toy. Let them play.
Here's a theory that I don't think anybody has really thought of, or maybe somebody's thought of it and thrown it all over the internet. What if the Ba'ul actually are Saru's people?
I told that to
No.
George.
No,
I
don't
told that
think
to
so.
George this.
I've heard
It's
that one
entirely
floating
possible.
around too. They look very expensive to do. They look very CGI to me. So
Well,
I
the
can't
thing
imagine
is-
them
Is
being
this on the theory
big,
that
big,
don't
big
look behind
bad.
that curtain? Don't pay
Yes.
attention to the man behind that curtain?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
could be.
the
No, I
thing
don't
is
agree with
that the Ba'ul may be something lacking in their DNA to make them melt as they are in this thing, or they could be other universal presences,
They're getting ready.
but are
according,
connected with the race, the
No.
Kelpians.
I don't. The suggestion is that they're about to commit genocide or whatever because of their Starfleet's there. We'll see. I mean, we're only getting. We're not getting the whole context.
Well, look. Based on the information that we have from Saru, which I'll be honest isn't empirical in any way because we don't have a second or third test subject to verify this information.
That's
just
true.
Saru. All we have to go on is this Saru's notion that his people do evolve. Now, if this is the case, wouldn't the Ba'ul, if the Ba'ul are Kelpians, want to take those people when they're evolving so that they
Yes.
could then mature them into the race that we see above the planet in the first place?
That's not a bad theory, but I'm going
Or maybe
to go
if
with
they're
their
doing
assholes. That's what
genocide,
I
maybe
think.
they're Space Hitler.
They are. I like
they
that
are
theory.
they're definitely an enemy that is easy to hate. They are ugly. They are menacing, and they do something terrible.
I honestly
Probably
think
don't
that
smell
this is,
good
the
either.
outset.
I honestly think that this is just one of those episodes where they want to have a good enemy to fight episode, and it's going to go a little bit into the Saru background. Son, you could be right, but I just don't think because that would take up another arc. I don't think that's going to turn out to be the case. I think they're just going to be like, let's blow them up type people.
Yes.
Well, here's
Sometimes you gotta devolve in.
I'm just
why-
going to cheer that entirely.
Why would it have to? Why would it have to take another arc? I mean, we literally had an entire mycelial network resolved in one fucking episode.
We haven't had our good blow the shit out of these bad guys episode yet, and I think this is the one that's gonna be the one.
Yeah, but that can literally all take place in one episode.
Yeah, I can.
So can it blow the shit out of the bad guys episodes? That's
I mean,
what I'm.
hey,
that's
look,
the one I'm rooting for.
Hey, look, the Kelpians actually evolve, but they turn into these really evil people when they when they get evolved
I see
in
what you
this
mean.
fashion.
Sure, as
so
long
let's
as we
blow
them
the
up.
hell out. Yeah, let's blow the hell up out of these bad Kelpians,
As
so
long
that
as
the
we-
good Kelpians evolve naturally.
Let me give you guys another quick theory, since we have a few more minutes. Do you think that Section 31 ship will show up again to help them fight them?
I think we're done with Section 31. For
I
a
think
little
we're done
Yeah,
with
I
Section
think we're
3
done.
for
You
a
think
little
so?
while.
Well,
For
they
a
are
little while.
okay.
I mean,
they
they're
did
still
share
going to be
information.
involved. Don't get me wrong. They're still going to be involved in the larger Red Angel arc.
Right.
And the finding, because they've basically set it up that Giorgio is going after Spock, Burnham wants to go after Spock. So we're going to see them again and again, but we're not going to see them in every episode. We have them in two, one right after the other. I think we're not going to see them.
I think
for
you might be right
another
because
few
it
episodes.
would be. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing what they can do in a battle to help Discovery against 3 ships, but I think you're right. So I'm just really. I think they're interesting. The promo makes them looking creepy, interesting, new baddie. I mean, again, they might be a one and done. Maybe they'll be a semi-reoccurring bad guy we'll see like next season, not till next season or whatever. But I think Georgia was aware of them when she met Saru. Although it could be just because he mentioned them in the communications. I don't know. She seemed like she was familiar with them, but Pike doesn't seem to know who they are, so we'll see.
Wait, who are you talking about?
In the episode The Brightest Star, when she goes down there to pick up Saru, or offer him that, she mentions something about...
The short trek.
Yeah, the short trek.
Right.
She mentioned something about the Ba'ul that suggested that the Federation are fully aware of them. But yet Pike didn't know who they seemed to be when he was going to the planet, unless, I don't know, they heard about them, but they don't know exactly all
I
about
don't
them.
think you can draw conclusions what Pike knows or doesn't know
From the
based
trailer.
on.
Well,
just
in the
because-
trailer he said
wait,
whoever
wait,
you are.
wait
He said
a minute,
whoever
wait
you
a minute.
are.
Just
Hasn't
because
he been trapped on Earth for the war?
No, they were out in deep space.
They were in
Oh,
their
okay,
5-year
gotcha.
part of their 5-year mission.
wait a minute,
remember-
wait a minute. Just
That's
because
right. That's right.
Just because the Federation officially knows doesn't mean every individual captain in Starfleet
Correct.
knows.
Correct.
Right, just
Giorgio
like-
would know, obviously, because she's the one whom they sent to get him, so to make
Right,
first
like,
contact.
obviously people
And
know about
this,
the Mirror Universe.
this
some of them
Emperor
know.
Giorgio would know because she eats them.
Right. Oh, yeah, I mean, Emperor Georgia would know for sure, but I think he's talking about original Georgia.
That's what's wrong with her. She hasn't had a good meal in a while.
Well, she'll keep her eyes on Saru. So
yeah, all she's doing is like taking a couple of bites out of an apple and throwing it on the ground. I mean,
well, that's another reason she could.
Nothing.
That's another reason she could show up for this episode, because this is the home planet of the Kelpians. She's got like fine dining selection.
It's a buffet.
That's why we're not going to see her in this episode.
But see, that's
right. She'll show up with a fork and a knife.
But see,
she's going to go. Let's go fishing.
Even that, George, the fact that the Federation, quote unquote, is aware makes me think these are probably really evil Kelpians that are evolved or something.
There's something wrong with their genetic code, and they're taken, I believe, at a certain point in order to continue the Baul facade.
Well, I'll simplify this even less. Think of that. Think if Neanderthals had developed at the same when Homo sapiens and Neanderthals didn't just fade out. Okay, say you've got the same thing going on this planet where you've got two basically of the same people of a planet, but just a little different.
We did intermarry with Neanderthals.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Right.
Not only that, but Neanderthals were like Porsches. They did everything extremely well. There's no evidence to suggest they were dumb.
All right, let's not go too crazy because we only got a couple. Okay, we got to wrap it up.
But to my point here, though, my point is that you had two sentient species that evolved on the planet at the same time, okay? And the one sentient species has gotten space travel, all these technologies. The other one has not. But however, the Baul realized that the Kelpians are advancing to a higher level evolutionarily, and this has nothing to do with they need them. They just need to keep them oppressed so that they can't take over. That's the theory.
All right,
which is why they're not allowed to touch or interact with any sort of technology, which makes Saru this exception to the rule, apparently.
Yep.
I think you guys,
because they're very smart. Obviously, he knows 94 languages. He just picked them up while he's been in Starfleet.
Yep. Well, all good theories. I could throw out more, but we do have to wrap it up. So, I'm really looking forward to this next episode. And Dave, if you are free, you're welcome to join us again. But Carlos, where can people find you on social media?
I am on Twitter at cpedraza and at AxeMonitor, on Facebook, on the AxeMonitor Facebook group, and at axemonitor.com.
And Mr. Dave Galanter, what about you?
At Dave Galanter on Twitter, and you can find me on Facebook as well. I'm around. You can friend me.
All right, and Raul, you don't really.
Yeah, you know what? I decided this week I'm going to say something.
Oh, all right.
Anybody can friend me if they want on Facebook. I would love to talk to you about Star Trek or anything else that we might have in common. My Facebook is Raul, Padron, in Arizona.
All right, and Sean.
In my house, pantsless, and of course at the X-Men Facebook group.
That doesn't sound perverted or anything.
No,
actually, we swearing chaps.
It's a way of life. You know. Here's the thing: you keep talking
Dave,
shit about
need
chaps, yet you're not sending them to me. So that's where I got a problem. Okay?
He wants you to be a sugar daddy, happen? Dave.
I need those chaps.
All right.
He's barking up the wrong tree.
All right, and son, where can people find you?
Facebook.com/SunsealFan, where I've just started recently posting links to the episodes because they're getting posted. Yay!
Yay!
That's right, because we got a new team. A good segue there, son. Thank you. Because we have a new YouTube channel where we're starting to migrate and put all the new stuff up, which is please subscribe to it. You can find it on TR Super Geeks. I use TR, stands for The Real Super Geeks. The reason why, there's other Super Geeks people using those names on channels, so I wanted to differentiate us. Sort of like The Real Ghostbusters. That was the wink, wink, nod, nod. Anyways, so yeah, TR Super Geeks is our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Subspace Radio, where we are syndicated. If you want to listen to it live, it's Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and that would be 10 p.m. Eastern time. So, and we'll have other places you can find us soon. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and another good episode of Star Trek Discovery, and we'll talk to you the next time about Star Trek Discovery.
Thanks, George.